Behind every brand, every movement, every leader, every transformation, there's a story. And intertwined in these stories is a message. And this podcast is for you, the next gen leader, coach, entrepreneur, and influencer. My name is Travis Brady, and I'm a branding mentor and sales story strategist. I hope you see me more of a guide than a host as I share the stories behind the brands, so you can take these stories, experiences, principles, and teachings and use them to share your story with the world. And what's up, guys? Welcome to the story behind the brand. Every single week, myself or a guest come on here, talk about real things, real stories, real experiences. And then hopefully you walk away with some good insight on not only how to share stories and experiences for your brand, but also learn something. And there's going to be a lot of learning today, which I think is something really relevant, which is cybersecurity. And my guest here, Dr. Eric Cole, who just recently spoke on the same stage with Andy Elliott at our event a couple of weeks ago, came and talked about this. So I thought I'd have him on the podcast. He worked with the CIA for almost a decade. Started and exited a few businesses, resulting in 8 to 9 figures. Starting to really grow his brand, speak nationally, has a lot of good stuff for us today. So I'm super excited to have you, man. Tell us, fill in the gaps. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I'm sort of your typical geek. In high school, I was always that kid that was sort of into math and science, not super popular, bullied a lot, sort of thought I was an introvert. And that was sort of the story, I believe, for a long time. But then I got into cybersecurity, started hacking and doing professional hacking, a lot of things sort of behind closed doors, secret meetings, back alley stuff. And what I realized recently is cybersecurity is a real problem. It's a real issue. I know, Travis, we were talking about my mom got hacked a couple of weeks ago. Your grandma got hacked a couple of years ago. I mean, this is a real problem and a real threat. So recently I decided it's time not to be quiet, embrace who I really am, which is more of an extrovert. I love talking to people and explaining to them problems in ways they can understand. So now I'm just on a mission to secure cyberspace and basically share the message with the world that we're at war. We're all going to be targeted, and cybersecurity is your responsibility. And if we don't start taking action and working together, things are going to get really, really bad, really, really quick.
Yeah, I've heard someone say this about, building wealth. They said the first thing you want to do in building wealth is prevent yourself from losing all the wealth, which is insurance. But then I feel like we almost need to include protecting yourself against cybersecurity as well. I mean, if something happens overnight, that can, wipe you out pretty good. I was just telling them off air, my grandma got $70,000 taken from her account, got switched to an off-seas account, and it's as good as gone. There was nothing that she could do about it. And my family was so pissed because she's so cheap with everything. And then here she goes, just handing off money to some dude over the country. What's the worst story you've heard with cybersecurity over the years?
I mean, worst stories are similar to what you said. I mean, you look at your grandma, your mom, somebody who's 60 or 70, and this is their life savings. This is what they're living off of. And
Yeah.
it gets wiped out. It gets taken. I mean, I've seen very high-end professionals. I mean, these are super smart individuals, and they have huge portfolios. One in particular decided to move a large percent of their investment into Bitcoins, cyber
Mm-hmm.
currency, had
Mm.
$8.5 million dollars. That was basically their main nest egg. They wake up one morning and they realize on their phone there was some like weird calls, and essentially somebody took over their phone, hijacked their 2FA, basically bypassed all their security and wiped out the entire account. And one of the good things of cyber currency is that it's untraceable and you can't figure out who did it. Well, one of the bad things is you can't do it either. And this is what most people don't realize. Your traditional investment strategies of protecting and securing your wealth with insurance and all those factors usually don't apply. And this particular instance, he ended up getting into litigation and unfortunately lost because he was shown to be negligent, but his insurance company wouldn't cover it. His insurance company said, yes, if somebody breaks into your house, and this is crazy, if somebody breaks into your house, points a gun at you and tells you to open the safe and you give him all your money, insurance will cover that. If somebody walks into a bank, robs it, and steals your money, insurance will cover that. If somebody hacks into your phone and you didn't have proper security measures in place and you didn't properly protect it and you didn't properly detect it, insurance companies don't cover that. So this is one of those cases where people don't think it's going to happen to them
Yeah.
until it does.
Yeah.
And once again, identity theft is another issue. I've seen somebody. This wasn't even a wealthy person. It was somebody making 500, 600K. I mean, nice car, nice house, average middle class. I mean, sort of dream life for them compared
Mhm.
to how they grew up. And their identity was stolen, and people were posting inappropriate pictures to their website. They lost their reputation. They got kicked off the board at their church. They lost their job. I mean, they
Wow.
just did a defamation attack against this individual. And he's basically telling everyone, listen, that wasn't me. Those weren't pictures with me. But guess what? With deep fake, pictures of you with inappropriate people or inappropriate circumstances can look real. And unfortunately, once somebody sees it, the damage is done. So this is a real problem and a real issue. And if you haven't got hit, I'm not trying to be Chicken Little here, it's going
Yeah.
to happen. At the event with Travis, people were sitting in rows of 10. And it just happened that the stat is 1 out of 10 people are going to get hit with a massive attack, and 3 out of 10 people are going to get hit with a minor attack over the next year. So I looked at everyone and said, okay, out of the 10 of you, you're all smart. Which one is it going to be? So this
Yeah.
is real threat that I sort of want people to wake up to and realize it is going to happen.
That's crazy. Real quick question before we dive into it, because I want to learn more about your background as far as everything goes. So let's say you do have property measures in place and they still hack your phone and take your stuff. Are you, is there any way you can get that back through insurance, or you just shit out of luck if they hack you, um, yeah, through your phone or whatnot?
So it's the unfortunate answer of it depends.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using traditional banking measures, traditional credit cards, and things like that, you typically have a 24-hour window. So, like for example, if I go to my bank
Mm-hmm.
and I do a electronic funds transfer to one of our vendors or somebody transfers large amounts of money, you typically have 24-hour hold before they actually transfer the money. So if you
Mm-hmm.
actually get notified and detect it within that window, then you can actually revert it back. So everybody in security seems to focus on two-factor passwords, locking down, prevention,
Yeah.
prevention, prevention. I'm a
Yeah.
little different, which is, yeah, prevention is important, but detection is key. So one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I do and I recommend to everyone is if you don't have it, you should go in to your bank account, your credit cards, and all those, and you should make sure that you're putting in account notification. So it's a simple checkbox. It's under security measures. It's easy to do. And now, whenever somebody tries to go in and transfer money or change money or anything else, you get a notification and you actually have typically 12 to 24 hours to take action and mitigate it. Other thing is if you're dealing with non-traceable, like cyber currency or things like that, where it's basically once it's gone and you can't trace it,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you really want to go in and put as much security measures in place. What I do with my cyber currency accounts is I actually have two different numbers, two different phones. One of my cell phones, it's an unpublished number. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
has it. I don't text on it. I don't give
Yeah.
it out. I only use it for two-factor with my banking accounts, my financial accounts. And then my other one is my main cell. So now if somebody's going to try to log in, transfer, or move money that's untraceable, I basically get notification on two devices and I have to approve both. And I know
Interesting.
people always look at me going, Eric, isn't that a little bit of an annoyance? You have to spend $50 a month on a separate cell service and you have to carry a second phone and you have to do all this stuff. I said, yeah, it's a little annoying. But you know what really is annoying? Losing $5 million. You know what's really annoying is
Yeah.
losing your entire identity. So we're really at a point in time where you're going to choose your annoying. Do you want
Uh-huh.
to get two notifications or do you want to lose your money? But we really have to just start stepping it up and just putting simple things in place. And what I always tell people is it's like seatbelts. In the 70s, nobody wanted to wear seatbelts. They were annoying and people hated them. Now we're used to them and it's just a necessary evil. It's the same thing. carrying a second phone or doing two-factor initially seems annoying. Within 3 months, it's common knowledge, easy to do, part of your
Mhm.
daily life, and will protect you and secure you, which is most important.
Yeah, I've never even thought about that. So what I'm thinking is just go to who am I with, Verizon, and just say, hey, what's the cheapest line I can get and cheapest phone, and then just keep that next to my desk. Don't tell anyone about that phone. Don't tell anyone about that phone number. And yeah, I love that. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah. I mean, in the spy industry, you call it burn phones, where you
Mm,
basically have a separate phone that nobody knows about that you
okay.
can use for emergencies. And we're in a day and age where if you have any money or you have anything of importance, everybody needs a burn phone.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's really cool. So, and this is where your background from the CIA probably comes in right there.
Yeah.
Tell us about what got you into the CIA and what you learned and how that transitioned into your cybersecurity that you do now.
So I always joke I got into the CIA because my life was boring as heck because they were recruiting on campus and I was in computer science. This was in 89, 90. Computer science in the 89s and 90s was basically electrical engineering with programming. It was boring. It was awful. And I didn't like a bit of it. But I'm like, okay, there's could be a career here. So I get recruited by the CIA on campus. And essentially, I was one of those folks, no kidding. I did not drink until I was 21. I never touched drugs or anything like that. I never did anything questionable. Now, in my 50s, I've sort of made up for a lot of that, but we could at least say back when I was in my 20s, I was actually a pretty good law-abiding citizen at that point. So they actually liked that boring background,
Yeah, for sure.
and I was just sitting in meetings, and we were doing everything back in the 90s. This was 89, 90. And I always put it in context. The World Wide Web didn't come out until 92. Google wasn't founded until 97. iPhone didn't come out until 2007, 2008. So 2000, sorry, 1990, it was a different time and a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting there doing everything with RF devices. And I'm sitting there going, why don't we use the internet? Why don't we use this thing called the internet to communicate and do covert comms and all this stuff? And the question came up, how do we know it's secure? And you really can't prove something secure. You can
Mm-hmm.
only prove it's not secure by hacking it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I got into hacking. Basically, old school. They gave me money, set up a lab, and they said break into this stuff and figure out how to fix it. And for 8 years, I basically learned how to hack everything from computers to pagers to nuclear reactors. And now I'm one of those that I could do a lot of evil things, but fortunately, I have a lot of good in me. And all my friends sort of call me modern day Luke Skywalker, where I could go to the dark side, but I still believe in justice and equity for all. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard companies saying this, like the person they usually hire for their cybersecurity is these hackers, because if they know how to break the system, and I've heard of people hiring, I've heard of stories of people hiring hackers. Hey, see if you can hack my system, and find out all the weak links. I don't know if you've heard of stuff like that, or companies doing stuff like that.
yeah, very common, and it's something where they'll often hire hackers, what they call pen testing or penetration testing or ethical hacking,
Uh-huh.
where you're actually trying to break in. Yeah, to me, I always say I'm a hacker, and I have to be careful because it has a negative connotation. To
Sure.
me, a hacker is somebody that's curious and wants to understand weaknesses to actually improve and secure them. They're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily bad. So you
Mm-hmm.
sort of hear these terms where you have black hat and white hat, where black hat hackers are ones who commit crimes and have done illegal things. And then
Mm-hmm.
white hat is me, where people that have know how to hack, they could move to Venezuela and make a lot more money, but they
Mm-hmm.
decide to sort of stay in the US and do good things. So yeah, it's absolutely very common to have a hacker on your staff. I joke, and that's one of my new mottos now because I'm trying to help people secure is everyone needs a hacker in their life, because if you don't have somebody who's thinking evil and know how evil works, and you think the world is good and you think the world is great, similar to your grandma, where she gets a phone call and she thinks, oh, they must be nice people. They must be wanting to help me, and I give the account, and they are pure evil. So I don't want everyone to turn evil, but if you hire a hacker in your life, they can think evil for you and keep you protected.
Yeah, For sure. So, how did that domino effect into starting and exiting these businesses and then ultimately coming back to cybersecurity?
So I loved working for the CIA. I love working for the government. Uh, don't regret a minute of it, but I am not a political person. I don't like following the rules, and it just got too much for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I remember I built and running this team that's doing amazing things. I mean, we're getting accolades from the director of Central Intelligence. We're getting accolades from the president. Like, we were making a real difference in the world. And they
Mm-hmm.
basically come to me and go, Eric, we're going to replace you. And I said, am I not doing a good job? They're like, no, you're doing a great job. Well, why are you replacing me? Well, the team is over 30 people and you're only a GS 13. And we have a rule that any team over 30 people must be run by a GS 15. And you can't get promoted for 10 years because of time and grade. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. We can't promote you and we can't keep you in the position. And I'm like, I'm doing a great job. I'm making a difference. The team loves me. We're having an amazing impact. But because of some silly, ridiculous rule that I can't go in and run the team anymore. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, man, I'm tapping out. This just isn't for me. And
Yeah.
then I started working for companies and I'm like, wait, I'm working for this company and I was doing ethical hacking and they're charging the client $30,000. I'm the only one working on this. I'm the only one working with the client. And I am doing all the work, delivering. The client is super thrilled, super happy, renews the contract. And I basically, if I looked at my salary, I got about 5K and the company took 30K. And I'm sort of scratching my head going, hmm, I don't know if that math makes sense, right? If I'm doing everything to earn a dollar
Yeah.
and they're keeping, I mean, 60 cents on it and I'm making 40 cents, I don't know if I like that. So I said, let me go in and sort of try out this entrepreneur thing. But I also was smart enough to know that I didn't know a thing about business. And I do recognize, just so we're clear, there is value to winning a client. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not downplaying that, but I sort of think everybody at some point in their life should be an entrepreneur because if you make a dollar, you should keep a dollar and at least know
Mm-hmm.
what that feels like. And then you
Yeah.
have a comparison point. So I joined up with a bunch of sort of older folks that knew business, but they knew nothing about technology. So they were basically running this business, but they were just run of the mill. They were just like every other government contractor. They were bidding
Mm-hmm.
on these boring contracts. And we're seeing all these high tech research and development contracts that no one's bidding on because no one has that expertise. So I
Mm-hmm.
joined them as CTO, became
Mm-hmm.
one of the four top executives, and I started basically repositioning us where we actually started filing patents, which was unheard of for government
Mm-hmm.
contractors. And we started going in and doing trade secrets and intellectual property protection and doing all these things that nobody ever heard of. And then we went in and sold that to Lockheed Martin for about 400 mil. And everyone took the exit. But Bob Stevens, who is the CEO at Lockheed, said, Eric, why don't you stay on to learn a little bit more about business under my tutelage, and you can be my senior fellow on cybersecurity. So I stayed on for a couple of years, loved it, and started getting pulled back into the, hey, they're paying me really well, even though I'm making them a ton of money, but this is sort of nice and easy, and I got the payout from the company. And then along comes I don't know if you know Dave DeWalt. He's a big player in cyber ventures, and John McAfee, which God rest his soul, he passed, but he was sort of known sort of being one of the crazy in cyber. So Joe and John come to me and they're like, hey, Eric, McAfee is really getting their butts kicked. And this was in 2008 by foreign competitors and all these new companies, Sophos, Trend Micro are coming out and they're just handing us our lunch. We need somebody who's innovative and thinks differently to revamp the product lines. So I went in, revamped their product lines, worked with them, and we ended up selling to Intel for. It's funny. I should remember the number. It was like 1.5 billion, I think, or maybe 1.4 bill. So I took that, and that this time I was smart enough to take the exit. Then I built a training company and sold that and then had the non-compete for a couple of years. And now basically non-competes are over, shackles are done. And I'm sort of like, I want to give back. I mean, I could build more companies and make more money, but at some point it's about contribution and giving
Mm-hmm.
back. So now I'm sort of focused on making cyberspace a safe place to live, work, raise a
Yeah.
family, and just really sort of positioning myself as America's cyber czar and really just sharing the message with the world. And one of the reasons it was so grateful to let you be on your stage and to be on your podcast, just to help people understand the problem to make the world safer.
Yeah, I love that. And like kind of going back to your point, I think every person has to realize that their worth is can be so much more if they went out on their own, you know. And I have the saying, you know, that I tell entrepreneurs over time, like those who make the leads make the rules. And if you don't like the rules that you're playing in right now with the business that you're working for, then you need to learn how to make the leads. You need to learn how to make the sales. And I think that that everyone comes across that mindset like, okay, the client's paying this and I'm getting paid this. And there's a huge, like, all this money in between, but we don't realize that that money in between goes to building your brand, marketing, acquiring the client, and everything else like this. But if you can systematize it and get good at it, then it absolutely makes sense to go out and do it your own for sure. So, what was the greatest thing you had to learn in going out and being an entrepreneur and learning how to do this?
To me, the biggest thing was that everyone's a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is good at sales, and we just have to stop this nomenclature that I hate sales. Like
Yeah.
I was for a long time like, oh, I don't sell, and I do a lot of keynotes, and I'm one of the few that didn't, like you saw at your event. I don't sell anything from stage, and people are like, dude, you got to do that. And to me, I just always associated sales with that nomenclature. Unfortunately, the nomenclature of sort of the used car salesman, the slimy, which is unfortunate because I know a lot of friends in cars and they are amazing ethical people, right? But we sort of
Yeah.
get this connotation that sales means you have to mislead, you have to lie, you have to rip people off. But what I realized is I got somebody to marry me. I must be pretty good at sales. I got jobs. I must be pretty good at sales. I convince my kids to actually eat vegetables. I mean, that's a pretty darn good salesperson, right? So what I realized is we are all good at sales. We just have to change the nomenclature around sales. Sales is just giving people honest feedback, showing them what's in best interest and giving them a new perspective so they
Mm-hmm.
actually realize that what you're doing is actually helping solve their needs and wants. And when you sort of change that shift, now I love sales and I do it very untraditional, where, like you said, I don't sell on stage, but I sell my brand to the point where everyone wants to follow me. And I think you saw after your event, I mean, half the audience came up to me and get my cell number and everything else. And then they reach out to me afterwards and like, hey, we'd love your help on this. And then I show them the value and benefit and end up closing a ton of deals from stage, but I do it very non-traditional. It's all about, to me, the focus is if you can get them bought into who you are and your mission and your brand, then the sale becomes easy.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to sell before you have that trust and credibility. And if you build the trust and credibility and get them loving your brand, then they'll always buy. I mean, to me, a great example, nothing negative because Elon's an amazing person. I've got to spend some time with him. I mean, brilliant individual. But let's face it, the cyber truck is a piece of crap. I mean, it really the thing
I
is
know.
rusted.
I don't know what
I
the
mean,
hype is all about it. I really
but
don't.
but he built a brand and he sold them on the brand. And
Yeah.
there are people that, I mean, he could put out, and I joke with him, and who knows, maybe he will because he's very creative. He
Yeah.
could literally put out, sell it in bags, cyber poop, and people would buy it if it has the Tesla logo. I mean, so you want to talk about branding at a new level. I mean, he's a great example. He
Yeah.
created the brand, and now anything he produces, even if it's not good quality, people will buy. So that's sort of the model I use with Elon is build the brand, build the following, build the trust, and then the
Yeah.
sale becomes easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was thinking about this today. I was like, you know, everyone talks about give value, give information, but before, you know, you're giving information, give value, they have to buy, they have to trust you that that information is real and actually going to help them. So it really does come back down to the personal brand and, you know, them knowing you and trusting you and connecting with you and all those things. Um, I want to talk about this for a second, then switch back to cybersecurity. What's the biggest thing you've learned or focused on in building a personal brand?
Be authentic. Don't be afraid to share your true thoughts and try to avoid the hype that everyone tells you. Like when I first started, I my brand was so confusing and I was turning a lot of people off because everyone was like, "Oh, you got to sit there and rent high-end sports cars and rent airplanes and do all these wild parties and you got to be controversial and you got to curse and you got to say things that piss people off and do all this stuff, and you sort of buy into that in social where it's all about just these I call it sort of non-authentic polarizing messages where you're trying to get people to follow you for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like I just wasn't getting traction or brand. And then I was basically like, you know something? I'm just going to be me. I love my Jeep. I love my Jeep Wranglers, and I put the big tires on them. I love going and running stuff over. So I don't post a lot of personal, but when I do, it's with my Jeep. Do I
Mm-hmm.
have much more expensive cars? Absolutely. I have a lot more expensive cars, and all my coaches are like, you need to show the pictures with the McLaren and all that. And I'm like, but that's not who I want. I want them to see authentic, down to earth Eric that likes to go out in the woods and likes to be in nature. Yeah, I like to go really fast too, right? But just being authentic to your voice and your message. And then when you speak out on things, people trust you. Like
Mm-hmm.
right now, I am sort of getting a lot of slack because I think this TikTok ban that was done by Congress and upheld by the Supreme Court is about the dumbest thing on the planet. It is really a knee-jerk reaction. It is hurting people's lives. It is destroying businesses, destroying careers. It doesn't make any logical sense. But because it's authentic and it's what I really feel, yes, I'm a little polarizing, but I'm doing it for the right reasons because I truly believe it's hurting people and I truly believe it's not doing what people think. So to me, it's just be authentic to who you are. And coaches are great. I'm a coach, but don't let coaches turn you into someone you're not or turn you into this fake person where you're renting stuff just to look good online. Be you, be
Mm-hmm.
authentic, tap into your purpose, and then people will see that and follow you for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some good advice right there. Yeah. I they said the word for 2024 was authentic. I don't know if you heard that.
No,
Because
I
they said
did it. That's
yeah,
funny. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
they said the word for, or maybe it was 2023. One of the last 2 years they said the word was authentic because of all the AI and the fake stuff going on. And just, and the scary thing is just like how real they can make a really bad video or picture look of someone and literally just destroy. And I've thought about that before. I was like, man, that is literally disgusting what you could do with someone as far as everything goes. So they're saying authentic, and I've kind of, have a different idea. Authentic, when you look at the true definition of authentic, it means of a original source. And I think at the end of the day, Red Suit Riller was on one of our Zooms and he was saying, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. And my Flory, she really loved that. And she's like been saying that a lot lately. And I've heard that a million times, but it's like, who's the real person that really said it? Who's the original source? And I think at the end of the day, we're all regurgitating different information just with our own brand. And it might not be like authentic, but it is genuine. And so my philosophy is, focus on being more genuine, because at the end of the day, a lot of your brand, a lot of what we say, it comes from other people and it comes from hearing something, you go, you know what, I like that. But I think what makes it like genuine is you put your own spin and your own meaning behind those words, and maybe it might have a little bit of a different meaning. And I think that, going back to, what you're saying is be authentic, the word that vibrates better with me is being genuine in what you're doing. And I think a lot of people think that they have to post all that stuff sometimes, and you don't. And but I probably would agree with your coach. Like as a person that loves cars, I probably would like to see your McLaren, by the way.
At some point, I'll do that, my friend. Yeah. But I also have a different twist, which is because I agree why is important. Like if your why doesn't make you cry, but
Yeah.
I think people focus too much on the why and not on who you really are. So what I always say is if the who doesn't scare the crap out of you, then you're not being authentic because most of us, who we really are is not who we're showing up
Mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I love doing, and it sounds crazy and it's insane, but it is the hardest thing for people to do that aren't being authentic, is look yourself in the mirror in the eye for 2 minutes and say, am I being authentic? And I will tell you, it sounds simple when I say that, but for many, many years, I mean, I couldn't, like after 10 seconds, I'm like, F that, like it would just piss me off looking at myself because I knew I wasn't authentic to who I am. And now I can finally do it for 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's sort of a fun exercise is no one's around. Don't let anyone see, don't pressure,
Mm-hmm.
but just look yourself like 2 or 3 feet in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eye and just ask yourself, am I being authentic? And if you can say yes and hold the stare for 2 minutes, you probably are. If you get uncomfortable, look away, or it makes you angry or irritated, yeah, you probably have some soul searching to do.
Yeah. No, that's a really good exercise. And I've done that before, not with that particular mindset
Yeah.
in mind, but just connecting in my eyes. I think this. I think most people want to be authentic and genuine. They just don't know quite how to let go of people's ideologies about them and what they're thinking. So they don't know how to be themselves, I think is what it is. And I think most people don't show up authentically at first when they first start putting themselves out there. But I feel like you need to own that it is being genuine in putting yourself out there. And over time, you'll start to fall more into your brand as far as everything. At least that's what I've noticed about myself. Like over the years, I felt more and more secure about sharing and being and, and some of the things. And sometimes, when I do get on video, it's not like, it's not vibrating at my real voice of what it is, but the more I do it, the more I settle in. So that's kind of what I've seen over the years is just coming into finding yourself.
And yeah, and not being afraid what other people think,
Yeah.
because unfortunately, most of our lives were spent making other people happy. When we were
Yeah.
a kid, if you didn't make your parents happy, you had a miserable life. If you
Yeah.
didn't make your teachers happy, you had a miserable life. If you didn't make those people around you happy, they weren't your friends. So we grew up in this mentality that influenced our lives of we want to focus on what other people want and try to please them and not who
Mm-hmm.
we are. And like to me, I grew up on the motto of keep the peace, which
Mm-hmm.
basically is you never speak your mind, you never start fights, you always agree with the other person, you always
Yeah.
do everything to make them happy. And yes, it got me to a stage in life where I was very successful and very miserable. And now it's where yes, it's good to keep the peace, but sometimes you need to fight wars and sometimes you need to fight battles and stick up for yourself. So to me, I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of that anymore. And I'm like, and everyone who's my friend and around me, I'm like, listen, I might be a little direct at times, but I'm going to speak the truth. And if that bothers you, so be it. And
Mm-hmm.
I've lost some friends, but I've also gained a lot because a lot of people like the truth. So it's really just speaking the truth in a nice way where
Mm-hmm.
you're being open and honest, but just not obnoxious or a jerk about it.
Yeah, for sure. How do people learn more about like cybersecurity from you and all the dangers out there? And as far as everything goes, where can we point the listeners to?
I mean, a great starting point is Instagram. Dr. Eric Cole, DrEriccCole. I'm the same handle on YouTube. I put out several podcasts. You can also go to drericcole.org is
Mm-hmm.
one of my websites, or if you're interested in my company, secure-anchor.com.
Okay, cool. Awesome, man. Dude, tons of value bombs. I really appreciate you coming on. I love the studio. It looks really good. Where is that at? Do you have your own studio? Or is it in your house or
Yeah, so I'm one of those where I run very practical businesses.
uh-huh.
So I was getting ready to get office space, and it was 3,000 square feet, and
Uh-huh.
we were going to build out this great office, and it
Uh-huh.
was $12,000 a month for this
Uh-huh.
office space. 2 blocks away in the same town center was a 5,000 square foot townhome that I could get for $4,000 a month. So I'm in this $5,000 square townhome where the first 2 floors of the office. Then I have a studio here. This. I have mics. I have different camera views, and
Oh,
it's basically
nice.
can all be
Nice.
run here. And then I sort of have my little man cave set up and everything. So I just have my nice little compound. It's right in a town center. You can walk to restaurants. You can walk to my gym and everything else. But it's my place. It's not in an office building, and it's just much nicer. So yeah, I just built out one of the rooms to be a studio.
Oh, my camera died here. Cool. All right. Well, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Yeah, that makes so much sense as far as everything goes. I think a lot of people will probably be following that here in the future. So, well, thanks for joining, man. Give us go follow Dr. Eric Cole. Copy the link, share it to someone that you feel like can benefit from this. Be inspired in what you're doing. Be next gen, and we'll talk soon. Good talk.
Hey, you have a story to share with the world, which means you need to get on more live stages. We have a jam-packed schedule in 2024 full of events, including our biggest event year to date, Brand-X. Go to benextgen.com/speak. Again, benextgen.com/speak. Or you could just click the link in the description. Fill out an application. Our team will reach out to you and show you how our speaker partnership works. Get on a stage, get video, blow up your brand, blow up your business. Let's go.